Back on the Big 550 KTRS, McGraw on the Morning Show. I'm Scott Sherman in for McGraw. Have you been following the story about these two guys, Richard Matt and David Sweat, that managed to go Shawshank up at that New York State upstate penitentiary? Well,
unbelievable.
ABC News correspondent Aaron Katersky is here to give us the latest. Good morning, Aaron.
Well, good morning. The two men are still at large, believed to be in a wooded area, a muddy, densely wooded area about 3 miles from the prison. And they're still believed to be on foot, although authorities have certainly considered the possibility they hopped a train or managed to get in a car somehow. But so far, there's been nothing to suggest that. The main driver of all of this is a woman who worked at the prison, a former sewing instructor named Joyce Mitchell, who's been cooperating with authorities. She had been investigated in the past 12 months for having an alleged relationship with one of the men, but ultimately that was unfounded. But now it's thought that she befriended the men somehow, and she's been talking to law enforcement about whether she was supposed to drive a getaway car, but never showed up. Instead went to the hospital on Saturday with a panic attack, leaving these guys to fend for themselves in the woods.
You know, it is amazing, Aaron. I don't want to be flippant about it because neither one of these people, either Matt nor Sweat, is Andy Dufresne here. These are bad people. But it's amazing that if Ms. Mitchell was under investigation by the New York State Corrections authorities for her alleged relationship, how was she allowed to have continued contact with these guys? And it looks like it might have come back to bite them.
Well, it does, although at the time the authorities from the Department of Corrections investigated the alleged relationship, apparently they just didn't find enough evidence that there was, cause for alarm. But when it was determined that she perhaps was supposed to be involved in all of this, I don't think it was any great shock. The authorities immediately went to find her, and she has been cooperative with them, we're told, from the start. And that's part of the reason why they've been hopeful that they'll track these guys down still nearby the prison. They had been hopeful about a lead they received about 40 miles to the southeast, but then they decided to return toward the prison and retrace their steps to see what they might have missed. And the search dog got a scent near a gas station, and that's where the area kind of started, and they blocked off a number of acres, and the teams have been concentrated in this area now for about 24 hours.
ABC News correspondent Aaron Katersky is with us with the latest on these two escapees from the New York State Penitentiary. Aaron, what are we learning about Sweat and Matt? Apparently they've been up for parole, and there were some background checks on them and some other information. What are we learning about these two individuals that we didn't know before their names became public figures?
Well, Matt has been in and out of prison several times, and at one point he told his parole board that he was going to be a hired killer. Met a guy in prison. The guy said he'd bail him out, $15,000 to bail him out of jail if he agreed to kill his wife and some other people. And he said, sure. But then ultimately he said didn't do it, instead warning the woman that her husband put a hit out on him. So clearly he's mixed up with some bad characters, and ultimately he was jailed at Clinton Correctional Facility for committing murder. David Sweat, also a murderer, but he'd been in jail starting when he was about 16 years old for attempted burglary. Said he was hanging around with a bad crowd, was trying to impress the crowd by committing the crime. Told his parole officers that, maybe I shouldn't have done that. They let him out on parole, but then he was back in for committing murder.
As bad a guys as these are, it's a fascinating story. You think about sort of Escape from Alcatraz, that movie, and you look at other escape attempts and successful ones, not successful ones, how they did it, regardless of what crimes they committed.
The technicality of it is just unbelievable.
It seems amazing. Aaron, are you shocked, surprised, or sort of, I wouldn't say impressed, but sort of interested in the details of how they actually got out?
Oh, I mean, it's unreal. And the intricate nature of what authorities said these two were able to pull off with power tools, and then the subterranean escape finally emerging through a manhole. I mean, it's crazy, and it hadn't been done since 1854. So there is a marvel to the thing, and I think we'll learn more. I think once they're caught about how the prison is going to make sure this kind of thing doesn't happen again. The next maximum security prison in the state where these guys would probably go, they're not going to be housed once they're caught at Clinton Correctional any longer.
And Aaron,
it's all made of steel, so there's nothing to rot.
Right. How's the community around there responding? I know at first things were pretty tense, as understandably, and they were on lockdown. Is that still the case? And what are people starting to do now that they're still not in custody?
Yeah, the schools are closed again today, and there are roadblocks up. There are helicopters overhead. I mean, it is an intense search scene. It's not a heavily populated area, and it's mainly a company town. A lot of connections to the prison itself. And so I think people are understanding about what law enforcement's trying to do, and state police have gone out of their way repeatedly to thank the public for their cooperation. But look, the initial intensity then backed off a little bit when it was thought, all right, well, these guys can't be anywhere near here by now. But then it all kind of ramped up again when authorities got this scent from the dog at the gas station and found a place where the two had bedded down for the night. And so it's intense. There have been robocalls warning authorities, warning people rather from authorities to stay in their homes, turn on their porch lights at night. So it's active, and I think it's unnerving.
Aaron Katersky, ABC News correspondent, with the latest on the two escapees at that maximum security prison in upstate New York. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Aaron Katersky, everybody. I'm Scott, that's Sarah, and this is the Big 550, KTR.